In this video, we're going to be comparing Jazwares Endo Series Bonnie to Funko's Bonnie. The first thing you'll notice is the height. The Jazwares figure is 1/12 scale, whereas the Funko figure is about, I would say, 1/15 scale. But I'm not here to point out the height as a direct comparison. I mostly am looking at these figures for how good they look compared to the source material. The next thing you might notice is Funko's figure comes with his guitar accessory, whereas the Jazwares Endo Series doesn't. Now, the Jazwares figure doesn't come with any accessories at all, and the hands won't even hold accessories if you wanted to move the Funko accessories over to your Jazwares figures. As a point of reference, all of the Funko figures came with an accessory and a Build-A-Figure part so you could build Springtrap. The Jazwares Endo series comes with an Endoskeleton Endo 1 and parts to build a Classic Bonnie and a Withered Bonnie. The Endo series over here on the left retails for about $25 for what is essentially a 2-pack of figures, whereas the Funko figure over here on the right side, I believe sold anywhere from $10 to $15 depending on the retail location. A benefit with Jazwares series is you get parts to make a Withered Bonnie. Funko, on the other hand, did not make a Withered Bonnie, just the regular version. Taking a closer look at the Funko version of Bonnie, you can see that he can hold his guitar accessory pretty well. If you want to bring over the right hand to try to strum the strings, it's not going to work very well, but you can kind of give, the illusion. Rotate the hand up here just a little bit. The way the Funko figures are designed, it's a little bit difficult to get them into great poses. And one thing I've discovered with Funko figures is they fall apart generally pretty easy because of their little ball and C-cup joints. And I'm not a fan of those types of joints at all. I really like the figures, but the joints just really bug me. So let's remove this guitar so we can actually see the figure without the accessory in the way. So here is how the figure looks. And I think the figure looks actually really pretty good. There's a lot of texturing on it, and I don't know if it's exactly a wash, but it definitely looks dirty around the belly, the nose area, and let's see, the legs and the arms. The feet are pretty good. But another thing that I actually like a lot, let's see how close I can bring this, is the dark around the eyes. You can see the dark colors around the eyes very, very well. And this just looks Game 1 appropriate. This just looks menacing, doesn't he? He's just gonna, you don't want to see this guy in the middle of the night or in a dark space. I've recently learned that the heads are on a ball joint, and I didn't realize that before, and they pop off, and that's pretty cool. The Freddy also, they all do that from what I understand. And I didn't realize that, so that just brought up Funko a little bit in my book because that's cool that they have such articulation up there. There isn't any articulation here at the waist, so you can't rotate the figure back and forth. See, like a leg just popped off there. If you're going to display this figure, it looks great. I think these look really good. They're really nice representations of the early game. And so let's actually, I want to point one thing out that I found to be funny looking at these figures. So Bonnie from Funko has a little tail sticking out the back, a little rabbit tail, right? That makes sense. Let's bring in and switch over to Jazwares figure. Bonnie has no tail. So I can't remember in the movie. I probably should check the movie out again. But I think that this figure is more based on the movie than it is the original game. Because as you can see with these colors, the colors are actually pretty different. Yeah, they're purple, but this one has a little bit lighter of a purple, and this one's a little bit darker of a purple. And the belly, muzzle, and ears are also really bright white, whereas the belly, muzzle, and ears for the Funko one, and from what I remember the game looking like, is more of like a grayish light purple as opposed to a bright white. This figure is just very bright and kid-friendly and happy. And if we check out the eyes, let's bring this figure in just a little bit closer. Actually, even better, let's just pull off the front of the face, exposing the face of the endoskeleton, and you'll be able to see this a lot better. So look at the eyes. The eyes have this light gray around it. It's not painted in black. I point that out only because the Freddy endoskeleton here, if you notice, has black painted around the eyes. You can kind of see a very light bit of black around the Freddy one, but Bonnie is light gray, which is interesting, so you can really tell the difference in the eyes. This one looks a little bit more creepy and menacing versus this very much cartoony, happy looking one. Let's go ahead and pop on this face so you can look at those eyes side by side. I mean, I think it looks cartoony and a little bit more happy looking. So to continue the talk about the tail on Bonnie, let's bring in another Jazwares figure. This is the World of Five Nights at Freddy's. It's Toy Bonnie. And this one has, well, it's a massive bunny tail. It also pops out very easy. It's very difficult for me to actually do this very much and not have this thing just pop out like crazy. So the toy version has, I was going to say toy bunny. The Toy Bonnie has a nice tail as well. And here's just a quick, if you want to see the height comparison, they are pretty similar in height there. They are probably pretty much the same scale. It's possible that Jazwares was trying to make the World of series in the same scale as Funko, but I don't know for sure. That'd be a great question to ask somebody on the team one day if the intention was to try to keep them pretty close to in scale. That'd be kind of cool to know. But we're not comparing classic Bonnie to Toy Bonnie right now. It's classic to classic. So I think one thing that the Funko figure has going for it big time is the look to match the original game, whereas the Jazwares is a look that's probably, if I remember correctly, is more matching the movie. You have a lot of accessories, as I mentioned earlier, because all these parts come off. You see an endoskeleton underneath, for an example, the Freddy one, and then you can put all the parts on. So you get like a ton of accessories that way. I do notice that with these figures, let's bring them back a little bit closer again and see how well you can see this. But the Funko has purple eyes, and the Jazwares has pinkish reddish eyes. I don't remember exactly from the source material what color of eyes Bonnie should have. Now, I've got a little tip for you about Jazwares Bonnie that I've recently learned thanks to someone in the comments. I wish I would have saved the comment, but I apparently didn't save the comment. And it's actually pretty cool. It's something I didn't think about till just now. That if you pull out the Endo or the Jazwares arms just a tad, if you're probably mostly just going to display the figure, then the arms will hang down much straighter than if the arms are tucked in. They've been this way for the entire video thus far, and I'll give you a quick example of what it looks like with the arm tucked all the way in, like it's supposed to be, and then what it would look like with the arms pulled out just a little bit. I think that looks so much better. I'll have to do another video about those arms, but it looks so much nicer, I think. And when you do this, if you're just going to display the figure, I think that looks actually really pretty nice. I know some people have said with the arm sticking out so far, it looks a little bit more like an animatronic, and sure, that could be the case, but I don't know. He still looks big and kind of stocky, a little animatronic-like, I think. Another thing that I would like to point out are the ears. Check out the ears for these figures. So the Funko version has these ears that are slightly bent, whereas the Jazwares versions are straight up and down. A little bit difficult to see because my camera is in a poor position. There we go. And I understand why they did this. I'm guessing they did this mostly because of the Endo series, removing the parts to essentially build the withered version, to make it easier to snap together and snap off. These ones I have to actually be pretty careful with, because when I got this figure, I thought maybe these ears actually moved around. I was trying it and discovered, oh wow, they're moving. And then I realized, no, these are kind of soft rubber. And if you bend them back and forth too much, you're going to snap these ears right off. So unfortunately, the ears, I think, if you mess around or play around with it too much, might be a little bit fragile. Another potential negative for the Jazwares figures is the feet are on a ball joint down here. And I think that's kind of neat. You have a fair amount of motion turning back and forth, up and down, and all that stuff. But one thing I have noticed about the Endo figures is that they can lean forward a little bit, and if they're leaned forward a little bit too far, then they'll fall over. Now, I know some of you might be really surprised by that I mentioned that, because I know quite a few of you have had very tight ball joints to feet connections. And so for me saying something like, wow, these are loose, it's not really that they're loose. It's just if you stand it a certain way, you notice that like I'm standing it straight and it bobbles around a little bit. And if it's just a little bit too far, and I know I'm helping it here, but if it moves just a little bit, or when you put it down and you try to stand the thing up, I mean, it could just fall right over. Not going to be common, but some of you, if you've got displays of lots of figures and you put this in a display with lots of figures, what's one of the worst things that could happen? A figure falls over and knocks like 100 other figures or 20 other figures over, and then you get to go and stand them all back up. Now the Funko figure over here, as far as I can tell, we'll just take the leg off because it's so easy, has no joint. There's no rotation. It looks like it's all just built together. So unless the knee fails somehow, let's pop this thing back in. It's not really, I mean, okay, there we go. I got to fall over. But like, how far can we go? He's like pretty leaned over there. And then a little bit brief talk about accessories. So this is the guitar that the Funko figure comes with. The thing looks huge on this figure, so I don't know if that was supposed to be huge. I don't remember if the guitar was actually that large next to the animatronic or not. However, no, not however, but whatever, I don't know. I think it scales actually pretty well with the Endo Series figure. I think it looks really good. And what would be awesome is if it could actually hold it and maybe even try to play it. But unfortunately, the articulation based off of these animatronic parts, I'm seeing if I can get it into a kind of a holding position, doesn't quite allow for a convincing hold. So like this hand could easily just kind of hold the guitar there. I mean, we could do this. It doesn't look nearly as awesome. Let's see. So we could do something like, that, but that doesn't look cool. That doesn't look great at all. You can't, because there's no like C-shaped hands like these guys over here, you can't hold anything. You're going to need to get some of this fancy stuff and shove it in the hand. And then you could shove that there. I think I actually did a picture. Yeah, I know. I just did that totally wrong. I don't know. I'm just grabbing pieces that I have. I'm not actually planning for this specifically, so it's not going to look great. If I was going to actually display this and stand it up, then I would be a little bit more careful. But yeah, you do some sticky tack, and there you go. Now Bonnie is holding the guitar from Funko, and this figure over here is like, oh my goodness. I can't even, I'm leaving. So yeah, we could do that, but you still, depends on how much sticky tack you need or want to use to display it this way. It doesn't look great. And I know, maybe some of you don't care, that's fine. I kind of like, if I'm going to display something, I want it to look good. I don't want it to look junky or like I've rednecked it or something. But anyway, you could do that, and it works. Just the arms are spread way up. I don't know, do you know any guitar people who hold the guitar and play it that low? So yeah, it's a little bit difficult to actually get the bend in those arms to where it looks convincing. All right, let's get this out of the hands. Let's get the sticky tack out of here. So ultimately, I think all these figures look really good, and they represent what they stand for really well. The Funko Bonnie representing the original kind of dark, scary, broody game before there was all this tons of lore and all this stuff, that all the baggage, so to speak, that the franchise has. And then the Jazwares is more representing the movie styles that I think might be a bit of a redesign, a little bit happier, a little bit more friendly looking. And maybe the scariness is what they do being friendly and happy and bright colored looking. I still don't like how Funko figures fall apart so easy. If you're trying to just move them around, they just pop off. But I also can appreciate that in that popping off, you could maybe potentially customize them pretty easily. Like, there we go. We just swapped off an arm for an arm in there. And now that I've learned real recently that you can pop off the head, then we can easily go and pop on another one. It almost looks like Vanny here is inside the Bonnie outfit, but I think, the customization is pretty nice in that regards. For Jazwares, the Endo series, customization is, well, interesting because the Withered and the Classic, I was really hoping that I could do put this Classic head on the Withered back head, but they're not compatible. And some of these pieces randomly actually don't fit in together very well. So you got to really look to find the pieces that you want to customize in there. Other than that, though, I mean, you can put, say, a Freddy torso on a Bonnie figure and then So you have like a brown torso with everything else that's purple. I mean, you could do that. You can even pop off arms and pop off legs and things. You could do some other random things to customize, but Funko is pretty easy to customize with the limbs that are falling off. I like the articulation from Jazwares a lot better, and I like the fact that the arms and legs and pieces don't just fall off when I'm trying to maneuver them. When they get to a point where I can't do anything, they at least... I was going to say they stayed on. That was hilarious. That's because I pulled the arm out. Let's just push these arms all the way back in. Then it won't do that at a perfect time. Get rid of you. But like, I can do all this, and it's not going to fall off. Not so much with Funko. I mean, yeah. So if you're going to display these things, I know you're not going to grab them by the limbs and pick them up and fling them around like I just did. But I think some of us should do that just to test out how durable, how sturdy these figures are. I mean, is it really okay to have joints that you look at them and they fall apart? I don't know. I do like that this one has a tail, and I don't like so much that one doesn't. I'm guessing this is just a reuse issue since Freddy over here also, I'm guessing they use the exact same waist, so Freddy doesn't have a tail, so Bonnie doesn't have a tail. But that's kind of a weird little thing not to do. I would have actually put a tail on Bonnie over here. But for me personally going forward, I'm going to be sticking primarily with Jazwares Endo Series figures because I really like them. I really do like these. I have wanted to buy the Funko figures for a long time. Let's swap out this head again. But I've wanted to. I've been so tempted on occasion when I've seen these in the stores to pick them up. But then I go back and I remember my experience with Freddy and how he just fell apart. Every time I wanted to do something, pose it or play around with it, just fell apart. And so it's been very difficult to actually pull the trigger and actually buy a lot of Funko figures. I'll be honest, I picked up Bonnie simply to do this comparison video. Anyway, thanks for stopping by. I hope you found this video helpful. Before you head out, click on the video in the bottom left corner because YouTube thinks you want to watch that one next.